joining the live stream or watching the recording. Today's topic is about the Czech Permanent Residence Permit and primarily about the 3 different ways how you can get it, or 3 different situations maybe. And it will be pretty short video because I will go deeper into like each of the ways in separate live streams in the next weeks. But I want to give you just an overview on how what the options are. But before we go there, let's first talk a bit about what the permanent residence permit is, what are the benefits, and like a bit about the general situation of the permanent residence permit. So for those of you who don't know, permanent residence permit is the highest immigration status you can get in the Czech Republic before you get Czech citizenship. There is basically nothing higher than permanent residency, which means that you have almost the same rights as Czech citizens. You have free access to Czech labor market, you have access to Czech public health insurance, you don't need to worry about renewing your visa or residence permits every 2 years or a year or 3 years, depending on what you have. Basically, your status here is unlimited, forever, permanent. The only thing you need to do from this perspective is to get a new card every 10 years. Of course, you still need to report changes like marital status, new passport, new address, all these. But from the perspective of actually doing something with the permanent residence permit itself, you just need to get a new card every 10 years generally. So also makes moving to other EU countries easier, especially if you get the status of the long-term resident of the EU. Then it grants you some additional rights in other EU countries as well. And of course, it's also one of the mandatory steps towards Czech citizenship if you don't go through ancestry or something like that. So if you want to get Czech citizenship after long enough of living here, PR is a must. So that's generally the situation. And now the 3 ways how you can get permanent residence permit in the Czech Republic. One is as an EU citizen. That's generally the easiest, but that can get also pretty tricky. The general rule is the same, that you can only get it after 5 years or potentially 2 years if you are a family member of another EU citizen but who already holds the permanent residency. So generally 5 years, but you don't need to pass any language exam, you don't need to prove any income. Sometimes it is just difficult to prove that you have actually been living here for 5 years, because as an EU citizen, you don't really need to get any visa or residence permit, so you can live here without anyone knowing, basically, or anyone meaning the authorities. So it might get a bit tricky, but I will get into that in the separate video. Second option is the most complicated one, and that's as a non-EU citizen. Because as a non-EU citizen, again, it depends on your situation. It's different for students, it's different for employed people, self-employed people, it's different for kids that were born in the Czech Republic, or if you want to bring the kids and you already have, sorry for the cough, and if you already have the permanent residency. So obviously there are different versions of it as well, but generally that's the most complicated way, because you in most cases have to pass the Czech language exam and you must prove high enough monthly income, plus you must be here for long enough period of time. Again, I will go deeper into that in a separate video, but this is the basic overview. And then there is something in between, and that's for family members of EU citizen. So that generally means that you are not an EU citizen, you are a non-EU citizen, but your partner or spouse is an EU citizen. So generally the first step for you would be getting the partnership visa or the temporary residence permit for close family members, so like family members of EU citizens, and then you apply for the permanent residency based on that. And that's a very specific process because your residence permit, the temporary residence permit, the partnership visa, is based on your relationship. So it is still part of the permanent residence process. It's not the way that if you're applying for a PR after 5 years as a family member of an EU citizen, you don't have to prove your relationship. You still have to, because you're still applying as a family member of an EU citizen. So that's a very specific thing only for this situation where alongside with all the other proofs you have to submit, like potentially proof of income, you also need to prove your relationship. That can be easy if you're married, but it can be the same as for a partnership visa with a lot of documentation if you're not married. But one advantage here for family members of EU citizens is that you don't have to pass the language exam. So if you're a family member of an EU citizen or an EU citizen, you don't have to pass the Czech language exam. So that's a great advantage of this approach. But again, I will do separate videos for all these three options because there is a lot to say about that. So if I was doing it here, that would be a super long video. So subscribe and watch out for the next videos in the next 2 weeks. Probably I will film those all. Let me see the questions here. If we have anything related to the PR. Hi, may I have two, hello. Okay. No, okay, so this was just the, okay, I thought it was the whole thing. Hi, can we connect over call? Maybe have your contact number. I have discussed a serious concern. The best is if you go to my bio. I don't know where you need to click, but get to my bio. There is a link where you can fill in a form and describe your situation, what you want to discuss, and we'll be happy to connect. Matěj Doležel, hello, hi Matěj, thank you for joining. Markus Neruda, taky zdravím. Jessica, what about fiancé engaged for a while for EU and non-EU pair, not married yet, but future? If you're not married, you're not married. That you're engaged doesn't mean anything. So until you get married, you will still be treated as a distant family member, which means the partnership visa. So you have to prove your relationship, all that, but you don't have to pass your exam. The Czech language exam, I mean. Kauli, ahoj, ahoj. Thank you for joining. Díky, že jste se přidalo. I don't know, kdo jste. Okay, guys, so that was it. There are no questions about the PR, so this was a brief video as I promised. And I will now be going to the joiners only section, and I will be doing another live stream there. So if you're a joiner, then you can go live there and ask me questions, and I'll be happy to answer them there. Máš hezkou češtinu. Díky moc, to jsem moc rád, že to zní dobře jako čeština. To je asi všechno, co jsem k tomu chtěl říct. Ali Usman, what is the fastest way to reach 5 years required for PR? I currently have 3 years and 2 years remaining. I'm not sure what you mean. How is the fastest way to reach 5 years? Kind of living here for 5 years. I mean, there is a slower way to reach 5 years, and that's if you're a student, because if you're a student, ano, já jsem Čech, takže spíš by bylo dobrý říct, že mám dobrou angličtinu, to by byl větší kompliment. Anyway, yeah, so if you're a student, then all your student years count as half, so you can potentially get a PR only after 10 years of studying in the Czech Republic. So that would be the slowest way, but fastest way, not really. You can shorten the time. For example, for close family members, you can get the PR only in 2 years, not 5 years. But if you need the 5 years, then it's just 5 years, no shortcut there. You mean on the website name Move to Prague? Yeah, that's the only link I have. I think I have in the description. So there, I'm a co-founder and co-owner of Move to Prague. So any form you fill in there, it will get to us. Aha, tak to jsem nevěděla. Tak to máš českou angličtinu, nepoznal bych, že si to nepodal. OK, super, díky moc. Díky moc. Co tě sem přivedlo na ten livestream? Že se to objevilo v tvém feedu. There was contact number tomorrow, I will call you. Of course, yeah, happy to hear from you. Okay, there don't seem to be any more questions. I will say one more thing. I will say it in Czech, but maybe in English then later as well. ale většinou, když Češi přijdou na ten livestream, tak jenom kritizujou a pak hned odejdou. Vždycky řeknou něco jako ohol si obočí třeba, nebo tvoje angličtina je hrozná a napíšou to v češtině a pak odejdou. Because usually there is a Czech person who says that my English is good, and that's maybe like the first time that some Czech says that, because usually Czechs come to the live stream and criticize me for whatever, that I should like shave my eyebrows or that my English sucks, and they all write it in Czech and then they just disappear. I think it's kind of a Czech internet thing. Okay, so some more questions. Let's see. Hi Jan, I have already the Czech PR. It took me 5.5 years until I finally got my card, but it was worth it. My biggest dream is to have a citizenship of the European Union. I can imagine that. First of all, congratulations. And 5.5 years is good. Often people delay it because of the language exam or whatever, so it's good that you got it basically as soon as you could. And definitely worth it. I agree with that completely, because then you don't need to worry about anything with the PR. So it's definitely a great thing to have. And Czech citizenship, you only have 4.5 more years because you can apply for Czech citizenship after 10 years of living in the Czech Republic, or after 5 years of having the PR, whatever comes first. So fingers crossed for you. Big fan from Malta. Greetings to Malta. Thank you for being a fan and thank you for being here. Jenom jsem koukala na něco a byli jste tam vy. Tak to jsem rád, tak jestli tenhle content tě bude zajímat, tak se přidej a budu rád. Thank you for all your help and support to everyone dealing with immigration. Wow, this is somehow like a very nice live stream today. I'm kind of more used to like hateful comments and everything, so thank you very much. I'm happy to hear that. That's the reason why I do these free live streams, to like be able to help and share information for those who don't want to pay for services or cannot pay for services, because obviously we do this as a business. So we have clients who pay as well, but for those of you who don't want to or cannot, here we are, or here I am. I heard from someone even non-EU citizen gets married with Czech citizen, and that non-EU citizens get permanent residency within two years. Is it true? Yeah, you can get permanent residency in 2 years if you're a close family member of an EU citizen, meaning that you're married to one. If it's a Czech citizen, no other conditions there. If it's an EU citizen living in the Czech Republic, they must have the PR themselves first though. So you cannot get it in 2 years if they don't have the PR themselves. Jaka Prasad, hi Jan, is there any way to get Czech citizenship sooner than 10 years if I graduate with PhD in Czech Republic? We would need to discuss the situation to like ask you all the questions I need to know, or the information I need to know before I can like advise properly on that. But generally, not like because you have a Czech PhD or stuff like that, but you can get a PR faster. For example, now as I explained with the Czech spouse, so if you marry a Czech citizen, you can apply for a PR after 2 years of being here, and then 5 years of permanent residency means you can apply for citizenship. So 2 years to PR and then 5 years of PR, 7 years in total. You save 3 years, but you would need to find a Czech person to marry. So there are more ways like this that in some cases you can get a PR faster, for example, with a blue card. Also, if you're moving from some other EU country with a blue card. So the PR path might be shorter, and that shortens the way to the citizenship as well. Exam, not sure what it means exactly, but for the standard PR you have to pass A2 Czech language exam. For the EU and EU related PRs you don't have to. Is there any language requirements? Yes, that's what I was just saying. If you go through the standard non-EU path, you have to pass A2 exam for the PR. And if you are an EU citizen or a family member of an EU citizen, does not matter if close, a married couple, or distant, a partnership visa, then you don't have to pass the language exam. But again, I will be doing more detailed videos about this topic in the next days or weeks. You know that I do live streams every Monday, Thursday. So I'll be doing more next week and probably the one after that as well. And I've already linked an article in the description which sums up the general information about the PR, and then we'll be also sharing other articles about the specific ways of getting PR. So guys, thank you very much for being here. And I'll now go to the joiners section. So if you're a joiner, we can have another one-on-one consultation or conversation there. Otherwise, I will see you again Monday, Thursday, until the end of the world. Good night, guys. Thank you for being here and see you next time.